And in 1843, there was this guy named William Miller who had his church say that Christ's coming was be in 1843. And of course, Jesus didn't return in 1843, so he said it'll probably be next year, 1844. Okay, the next slide. So if we were to say that Christ's coming up until the 1800s, because all of the major prophecies had not yet been fulfilled, you could probably say that the odds of Christ's return were a million, billion, trillion to one that he wouldn't return up until the 1800s. From the 1800s to the 1900s, some prophecies are being fulfilled, but not the major ones. So you can say, well, the odds are maybe 100 to 1,000 to 1 that he won't return in that generation or that time period. Now, from the 1900s, right around here, the Spanish flu pandemic killed over 10 million, and the League of Nations was formed after World War I. You can probably say that, hey, we're getting close. The pestilences and the famines and the wars and rumors of wars, this is the first time we had a world war in history. So maybe the odds of his return, maybe it's 100 to 1 that he doesn't come. Now, in the 20s and 30s, they had the stock market crash and the Great Depression, the rise of Hitler, and all of a sudden, the population reaches 2 billion in 1930. From the 1850s, there was only 1 billion. Now it reaches 2 billion. 1940s and 50s. Here is the key right here in the 40s and 50s. World War II, the Korean War, the genocides of Stalin, Mao Zedong, and Hitler. Famines increase exponentially here. 1948, Israel becomes a nation. The beginnings of the revived Roman Empire, and the United Nations is formed for a one-world government. Now, the scenario is set that there's a world government platform that the Antichrist can take hold of. Now the Jews are back in the land. Israel has become a nation. These are major prophecies that are being fulfilled. Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7 of a revived Roman Empire is taking shape. Odds now, instead of 100 or 1,000 to 1 or 1 billion to 1, suddenly reverses because the prophecies are being fulfilled. Much like when the pastors are telling you that the odds of one man fulfilling all of the prophecies of the first coming, all the prophecies of his second coming are being fulfilled. So it reverses the odds. The probability factor now goes to 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 1 billion that he will return. And those of you who were gamblers, hopefully, like in your BC days, like I used to go to Vegas a lot in my BC days. I was a gambler. I always look for odds, right? Everybody's looking for the odds. Well, the odd factor, or the chance factor, now is totally in favor that Christ would come in this generation because the probability and the prophecies are being fulfilled right in this decade right here. Now, the 1960s and the 1970s, things start to accelerate here. 1960, there was the biggest earthquake in history in Alaska, 9.5 earthquake. A 500% increase in violent crime. As Jesus says, the love of many shall wax worse and worse, and the lawlessness shall abound. So violent crimes really escalated there. 50 million abortions, adultery, fornication, divorce, spouse abuse, child abuse. Out of wedlock babies increased 500%. So you can see there's a soaring of Bible prophecies being fulfilled. Sociological signs, physical signs are soaring here in the 1960s and 70s. 1974, super outbreak of tornadoes that hit 13 states in the United States, the worst outbreak of tornadoes. Again, this Thursday, I'll cover more of that, of tornadoes, the whirlwind of the Lord, of hurricanes and earthquakes and tsunamis. In 1967, Israel's Six-Day War. In 1973, the Yom Kippur War. The Vietnam War, the Cold War, Cuban Missile Crisis. There will be wars and rumors of wars. There were also dozens of revolutions and smaller wars during this time. Then a key prophecy being fulfilled is 1979 Camp David Accord. Population hits 3 billion, and Jerusalem now becomes a part of Israel. Now the third temple can be built in the city of Jerusalem. And now the prophetic scenario is becoming clear. The pieces of the puzzles are starting to fit. Now the odds of Christ's return increases. The probability factor increases that he will come in this generation. We will not know the day or the hour, but the odds are that he is coming even sooner. The 1980s and the 1990s, this starts to get real interesting when Israel bombs the Iraqi nuclear site. 1982, the Lebanon War. My wife and I were in Israel during 1982, and as I was sharing with the first service, we were taking that boat ride from the foothills of the Golan Heights, I believe, right across the Sea of Galilee. Beautiful spot. And there was this small little restaurant on the seaside, and we were going to stop for a bite to eat our lunch before crossing the Sea of Galilee in this boat. And I looked on the menu, and it says St. Peter's fish. And I said, St. Peter's fish. Oh, that's interesting. You know, they ate fish. You know, Peter, they caught all of the fish. Peter was a fisherman. So I said, oh, that'd be interesting. I want to try that St. Peter's fish with some fries. Sounds great. So my wife and I ordered that St. Peter's fish, and it came to our table, and I said, wow, this looks interesting. It smells good. And I whispered to my wife, I said, this is tilapia. And she said, no way. I said, sweetie, this is tilapia, trust me. This one. I've been a fisherman for years. I know what tilapia looks like. And I was very hesitant to eat tilapia. You know, I mean, you guys see it in the canals. You don't want to eat tilapia, right? But, you know, tilapia was delicious. It was excellent. And if those of you who are going to Israel, if you get a chance and you go to that place on the Sea of Galilee, try that, St. Peter's fish. It was really good. I don't think I'll eat tilapia here, but it was really good in Israel. And then as we crossed the Sea of Galilee, there were these F-14, F-15 fighter planes from the Israeli Air Force were buzzing us over the Sea of Galilee. They were heading up towards the Golan Heights of Syria. They were heading off towards Lebanon. They were crisscrossing the Sea of Galilee, and they were flying really low, right over our boats. I thought, wow, is there something happening that I don't know about? And then we get over to the other side, and then we find out that the Israeli army is getting ready to launch a major offensive into Lebanon because of this. Hezbollah was lobbing this Katyusha rockets into northern Galilee. And their Syrian forces were gathered in the Bekaa Valley and in southern Lebanon. And I thought, wow, you know, things are really heating up. And so I told my wife, I had been studying Bible prophecy for a number of years, and at that point I said, you know what, this may be it. We might be, you know, here for the Ezekiel 38 fulfillment here. And but a few months later, after we left, I was watching on KITV News that the Israeli army had gone into southern Lebanon, and they had uncovered all of these tunnels. And I have a book called Wars and Rumors of War. This fellow Christian gave me this book, and it showed photographs of all of the armament that was found in these southern Lebanon tunnels. There were tanks and artillery and missile and rocket launchers were all buried in these tunnels in southern Lebanon. And they were what we call pre-positioning of armament for a major offensive into Israel. And they also found plans of a Russian invasion into Israel. It's called Operation Pincer. This writer, prophecy writer, wrote about this. But see, it wasn't God's timing yet. 1982 was not God's timing. And the interesting is that the allies that would come with Russia into this invasion were Iran, you know. And Bible prophecy experts like Chuck Smith and a lot of these experts were telling Israel, why are you giving spare parts to Iran? This was during the early 1980s, during the Iran-Iraq war, where